Welcome to AEC Unplugged. I'm your host, Danielle Gray. I currently serve as the Director of Content and Knowledge Resources at SMPS HQ. Thanks for being here. Look, I'm always so amazed at how far we've come since May in launching this show. And we've had so many great guests, we've had so many great conversations. If this is your first time watching or tuning in or even hearing about this, make sure to subscribe. I feel like one of those real influencers now. Subscribe to the SMPS YouTube and watch the playlist. It's an AEC Unplugged playlist. Make sure to tune in there. There is a season 1, and we are currently in season 2. This is actually episode 5. Can you believe it? So that is, if you want to check us out, learn or see who we've talked to, tune in there. Also, we've got, this is my time to really talk about the different things coming up, a few announcements. So, one is SMPS has just launched their new blog. It's called SMPS Insights. Okay. We just launched the first one. It is called Is Your Proposal Making the Cut? Is Your Proposal Making the Cut? So we are really excited about that. So if you are interested in not only reading, but also guest blogging, we're looking for writers. This is content. This is what we're here for. So SMPS Insights, please tune in. You'll see those posting in carousels on LinkedIn. And also what you'll see is a few polls. We posted a little while ago on our LinkedIn, why did you join SMPS? We're going to continue to ask these questions, and we're looking forward to engaging with you, learning from you, so that we can create content that is relevant for your lifelong learning to grow and be the professional that you want and desire to be. Okay, also, we have. Let's see, the Pinnacle Experience is coming up. So that's for really specifically tailored to the senior marketers, business developers, principals in firms. There's a lot like a conversation. Well, we need our own content. I know this, I know that. This is that conversation. These are these types of sessions for the senior marketers. And not only are you learning, you're also networking with some really, really awesome people that are doing what you're doing and in the same level, in the same realm. So please be look out for that. Register. It is November 6th through the 8th in Atlanta, Georgia, my hometown. So I hope that you can make it. And we will be at the Four Seasons, so that never goes wrong, right? All right. Also, we have a few webinars coming up. One, which we're going to talk about more exclusively today, it is called the Interplay of Marketing Communications and Business Development, and that's on October 17th. So make sure you register. You don't want to miss that. That's actually what we're going to be talking about today, but more on that later. We also have a webinar November 21st, right before Thanksgiving, so it's not you'll still have time. It is the Foundations of AI and AEC Marketing. What's really interesting about this one is that this is going to be taught by an AEC marketer, someone that's attended our AI program. She is an AI expert at this point, has done a lot of work and specifically speaking to AEC marketing. So you do not want to miss that as well. Make sure to register for that. Also, all the CPSMs, we have some exclusive learning for you. This is going to be our exclusive CPSM only learning series, and that begins on November 20th. If you weren't able to watch our last episode, we interviewed Scott Butcher, who is a fellow and also a CPSM. He'll be speaking on November 20th when that series debuts. Okay, I think that's it. But before I introduce my first guest, tell me where you're tuning in from. Let me know where you are. I'm in Atlanta, so I'm hoping that you can write under the chat, comment, so that we can see where you are. This is a time to network with us and with other people tuning in. All right, now to the episode and to our amazing guest today. I'm not going to do a whole long bio, but what I will say is she knows what she's talking about and she's going to tell it how it is. Sarah Wortman, she is a CPSM and Director of Marketing at MG2. Welcome, Sarah. How's it going?
It's going great. Glad to see my mom's keeping up those payments for the good vibes.
Very well, very well. Thank you so much for joining, and for the people joining here today, Sarah and I. We've been having some really great conversations, and I always really enjoy speaking with you because you tell it how it is. And that is why I'm really excited for people to hear what you have to say when it comes to the BD and marketing discussion. Now, before we get into that, I always ask my guests, how did you get in the AEC industry? Did you dream about this at 5 years old? What happened? How did you get here?
I was a university communications professor.
Okay.
And I was getting ready to go up for tenure and realized that I really, really loved teaching and I really, really didn't like academia. So I took a long driving vacation, came home and started looking for jobs. This will tell you how long I've been doing this. Applied in a newspaper for a marketing manager job at an interiors firm and got the job and then thought, I'll do this for a year or so and then I'll go back and get a real job. And that was 20 plus years ago now.
Okay.
I just fell in love with the industry.
I mean, isn't it's such an interesting industry. And I feel like I'm so challenged because it's so unlike so many other marketing and business development positions in industry. So thank you for sharing. It's always interesting. So it started off with supposed to be 1 year, a year or two, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, my husband finished a graduate degree. Best laid plans, right?
No, right, exactly. And I just want to make a mention to the people tuning in. We have Alexandria, we have Wilmington, North Carolina, we have Orlando, we have Pennsylvania, and even Baltimore. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. All right, so to my next question, before we go into the interplay of marketing and business development, can you share what inspired you to even come up with this thought leadership for this topic?
Well, it's been interesting for me how often in firms, the business development side and the marketing communication side are challenged to really communicate with each other well. And it creates a certain amount of missed opportunity. And I think if those two sides can communicate effectively, can recognize when one can have a positive influence on the other, I think it makes all of our marketing efforts just that much better.
I completely agree. So, what are some common pitfalls? Because we know that I've been in a firm that has been like this more siloed approach. What are some common pitfalls that you see as it relates to the roles of marketing and business development?
I think sometimes just a kind of an inherent, there seems to be a little bit of a belief, especially if you have seller doers in your firm, that business development is serious and marketing communications is not, right? That somehow Marcom happens via fun and fairy dust and it doesn't really have any data behind it or any process behind it. And those people over there are just having way too much fun to actually be working, right?
Right.
And so I think that's a bias sometimes we have to fight. And I also, like, one of the first things I do when I get into a firm is I say to the business developers, when you meet somebody or when we get a call or when somebody asks, unsolicited, ask if they can talk to us, do you ask the question, how did you find us? Or why did you pick us? I was really lucky to have a great business development partner who we got an inbound lead. He called and asked the question and they said, well, we saw you on a top firms list in our category. And then we looked at your website and we liked it. And then I saw that somebody I used to work with, you had done a project for us. So I called them and got a reference and they said, you guys were great. And that's why we decided to reach out to you. If we're not asking that question and if that information isn't getting back to the comms team, it's harder to be strategic about how you make sure your comms is supporting your business development effort.
That's so good. I have just a little story to share about that because I've been for those watching, I started in a design build firm as a marketing coordinator, marketing analyst, kind of made my way through. and I was leading the way for the blogs and doing some content. And I never knew what was happening. It's just, I'm posting it. I hope it's working, and it was just, it wasn't an email or anything. Although I asked for the email later just so I could have proof. But we were at a coffee station. It was like, oh yeah, I meant to tell you that what somebody mentioned they found your blog, or our blog online, and that's how they reached out to me, and that's how we kind of got on this project, so thanks. And I'm like, thank you for sharing, but to your point, we have to ask those questions. And if business development doesn't know, or whatever, whomever isn't asking those questions, it's really important for us to. So thank you for saying that. So
Mhm.
another question for you: can you provide like an example of a successful relationship between marketing and business development? What does that look like, and how can it really impact your firm?
Sure. Well, I think it's understanding, like, we all know that the marketing communication stuff, the things we do to manage the reputation of the firm, kind of hits people in some ways invisibly at first, right? In ways that they're not even aware that it's hitting them. So making sure like, one of the things I tell people is think about your customer journey. I've got a project. Oh, okay, I have to find somebody that can help me. Now I got to vet them and see if I want to work with them. Now I got to meet with them. Now I got to convince my boss that they're the right people to work with. And there are things that both marketing and marcoms and business development can do at several stages of that process. We just recently had, excuse me a second, a client tell us, yeah, I wanted to hire you guys. It turned out to be an easy sell to my boss because we just downloaded that research report you guys did on our industry, and I was able to pass it along. Well, right? That really helped.
That's huge. That's huge. And you don't always hear that. So that's nice that you even knew that that was downloaded and shared.
Mm-hmm.
So so you have this webinar coming up, the interplay of marketing communications and business development, on October, shameless plug, October 17th at 2 p.m., right? So can you share with me give us a little bit more insight into what you're going to be talking about for that session?
Sure. I think my plan is to sort of walk people through the journey somebody goes through when they're first decide, from the point they're first saying, I have a project that needs to get done, and I need to find an architect, an engineer, an environmental consultant, a contractor, whatever you're looking for. To do this project, what do I do next? And then it'll sort of walk them through the process from the client's perspective and say, what information is the client looking for at every phase? And then we'll also look at what role now I tend to think of marketing as the umbrella heading, BD as all that stuff that's about getting the work in the door,
Mm-hmm.
and Marcom being about all that stuff that's about managing and growing the reputation of the firm. So what can the BD folks be doing at any stage of this customer journey to help support making the decision to hire us? And then what can comms do? Because one of the things I think people don't understand is the comms or promotion stuff that we do at our firms. One of its goals is to help shorten the sales cycle, right? To make it so that when I call somebody, the response isn't MG who?
Right.
It's, oh yeah, I saw that report you guys just published about, men's grooming trends. I just saw Matthew speak at that conference about the supply chain. Oh wow, I saw those photos of that really cool high-rise project you did where they raised a McLaren onto the roof. Yeah, super cool, right?
Right. That's so interesting. What really popped out to me is that you're taking it and leading it from the client perspective, which is, I think, so important. I don't think that we always think about or do is, okay, what are we doing? And it be kind of focused on that rather than what does the client actually need to hear at this stage? What do they need to see? And I have never heard someone explain it like we're shortening the sales. I mean, that is exactly what it is. Let's make us
Yeah.
familiar. Oh, that's so good. So good.
Yeah. And
Um,
if you're on the comms side and you want to be perceived as a valuable strategic resource, approaching it from that perspective changes your game.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I want to take a moment to, before I go into this next question. Uh, Tampa is also here, Portland and Fort Collins. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. All right, so a question for you with this particular session. Is this just for business developers and marketers? Who is the ideal person that should be attending your webinar?
I think it's for both. And
Hmm.
I think it's for anybody who wants to make sure that they're leveraging both sides of the marketing team effectively and in a concerted way.
Hmm.
And that can be anybody from, I remember the first time in a job like this that it occurred to me to start telling my BD people to ask people how they found us, right? It just asking that question made a big difference. So anybody who's sort of in a situation where either your BD or your seller doers aren't necessarily telling you what's working,
Hmm.
or you're trying to sort of understand how to deliver value in the sales cycle with your comms. I think it's for anybody at any level that's interested in those topics.
I love that. And I think that that's so important for those that are beginning your career, mid-level, senior. This is a conversation we all need to be a part of, because I've seen it. I've heard so many people talk about it. So I'm so glad, Sarah, that you said, you know what, I'll raise my hand and I will lead this session and share my experiences and my perspective. So thank you so much for doing that. So before we go, I would love to hear some words of wisdom if you have anything to share with our. It's very dramatic, and that's how I like it. What's the words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience today?
I think the biggest thing I would tell anybody in this industry, because a lot of us take a circuitous path to get here,
Hmm.
right? So I think that is the biggest wisdom I would say is just keep asking questions, keep learning. A old colleague of mine used to say, we're like the Dutch. Everybody else is, we're expected to speak everybody else's language, but they are not expected to speak ours. So think about, God bless him. When I got my first job in this industry, my husband went out and bought me 8 books on architecture and interior design and brought them home for me to read. Because at that point, a lentil was something I ate and a dental was something I ate it with. And over time, the other thing I make everybody who works for me do is shadow a project, because you learn. It's astonishing to me when you really dig deep into projects how many aesthetic, life safety, technical, financial data points architects and engineers are juggling at any point in time.
Right.
And it both develops an incredible respect for your colleagues and in a way to talk to them and use anecdotes that will resonate with their lived experience when you are talking to them.
I love that. I've never heard that, but man, we are Dutch, huh? So as marketers, and we have to be able to explain what we need, what we want through their lens. So thank you so much, Sarah. This has been so great. And if you're watching, thank you to our Kansas City and Orlando viewers as well. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions or want to engage any further, feel free to comment below. This video will be found on YouTube, so do that. So all that being said, before I say my final thoughts, thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate you being here, and we'll see you on October 17th for your webinar.
Sounds great. Always a treat to talk with you, Danielle.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. All right, so look, we did it. Another episode of AEC Unplugged. I've learned several things already. I mean, to think that you can get so much information in these really great engaging conversations. Again, this platform is about intimate conversations, getting to know the thought leaders so that you know who you're speaking with and who you're talking to and where their experience is even coming from. All that said, October 17th, make sure to register. Pinnacle Experience, make sure to register. Look at Foundations of AI for AEC Marketing. Be sure to register. And if you are a guest, if you're interested in blogging, SMPS Insights is now launched, and we are looking for writers as well. I think I've said all the different things. So with that being said, I hope this episode, if it doesn't move you to do anything different, I hope it encourages you to be something different. Thank you so much for joining AEC Unplugged, and we will see you next time.